Hello everybody, I'm back with another video for you today, and I wanted to finish off the series of reviewing all the new Master Mirror cards because we have seen the last kind of bunch, the last batch before the expansion in just a few days now, so I wanted to go over them real quick, and yeah, let's do that now. So up first we have Ulrich. This is a card that reminds me of Dark, the Netflix series, because I've been watching a lot of that recently, rewatching it. But yeah, this card is pretty much an Adalia for Syndicate, with definitely some upsides. You've got a 3 for 11 with 2 armor, which is already a little bit better than Adalia. It has Intimidate as well, so getting boosted when you play Crimes, and deploy effective spawn and play a base copy of a bronze Firesworn unit from your hand. Devotion boost it by 2. So if you play this with Devotion, you're already getting some pretty gnarly value, some arguably even better than something like Raymond or Adalia, which both are quite often played at the moment already. So definitely if you play this with Devotion, that's solid. So what are the targets that you can be playing with this? It needs to be a Firesworn unit. Well, I think the key kind of contender there is going to be the Fallen Knight, this guy here, which we've already seen. When I first saw this card, I thought it was gold, and I had to check again, because this is kind of the key target for Ulrich, it seems like, right? You've got Veil, Intimidate, and whenever you spawn a unit, boost self by 1 for each unit spawned. So you've got some really nice Intimidate synergies. This is a great engine for Intimidate, and if you're then doing some crimes like maybe Smuggle, which spawns a Firesworn unit, you've got some potential for some really crazy engine value in this Firesworn archetype. So that's kind of the key card there. You could of course also... trying to drag across, but I'm struggling a bit. But you could also, play something like the Eternal Fire Priest or any of the ones that we currently have in the game. Those guys are okay. Maybe the guy that whenever he gets boosted, or whenever, you spawn a unit, it's getting boosted. Something like that could be also a decent target. So maybe you're playing both of those units, and Ulrich is therefore a good inclusion in your deck to hit those targets. Maybe a bit harder to make work than something like Adalia or even Raymond, but definitely has a very high upside when it works out. So I think this card will probably be played if the Firesworn archetype is even close to good. Just getting an engine and another engine is always a really powerful effect. This protects the engine that you play as well as being protected himself with the 2 armor. So I think this is definitely possibly a very strong card. Possibly, whatever. I think it definitely has potential. Next up we have the Apiarian Phantom, which is a Wild Hunt card, very important to note. 4 strength, 1 armor, 7 provisions. Unfortunately, another copy-paste card, basically. We've got effectively a card for every faction with this stat line, and the armor, and the Veil, and the Zeal Order melee effect. This is the 3rd card that just damages an enemy unit by 3 with the Order effect. So I'm not going to lie, I'm quite disappointed to see that. A little bit of... a lack in creativity there, I think, but it is what it is. At the end of your turn, if Order is not used, boost self by 1. So nothing we haven't kind of seen already with the card reveals here. This time you're boosting the the unit itself rather than another target. So nothing too crazy to write home about. This seems playable, I guess, when you have the damage as an option. That's always really quite nice. So yeah, I'm in monsters quite often. It has some really good cards, but then a lot of its middling cards are not super strong, so another 7p that you can think about playing is definitely going to be quite a nice thing to have for monsters, I think. Definitely not a bad card, but again, yeah, I'm not too excited about it, because it is just, it's just another version of the cards we've already seen, really. Alright, next we have Winter Queen. Now this card, on the other hand, is very exciting. It looks very cool. Very unique effect. 4 strength, 8 provisions, Devotion, Thrive, so if you are playing a monster card only, then you get Thrive on this unit. At the end of your turn, if there's Frost on both opponents' rows, summon this unit from your deck to the ranged row. So it works basically like a Roach, or even a Knickers, but Roach is kind of more the obvious comparison. However, this is 1 strength more, 2 provisions less, and has a different condition, the condition being Frost. So that means it's potentially easier to keep it in your deck for later on, which can be an upside. You're thinking cards like Ailerin, which you play in Elves, which, that card's really quite good, right? And it's a 10 provision card. Honestly, this card seems really just overstated for what it is. If you're able to get that Thrive effect, getting a 4 strength Thrive unit, I'm tripping over my words at how good this card could be. just getting that for free is really powerful, and I think it definitely will incentivize you to try to fit in some kind of frost play if you are playing monsters. Even if it doesn't, work too well with the other good thriving cards like lava, you may just consider running a one of frost or maybe a couple of frost cards in order to get this card out and get that kind of really juicy thinning and free value from this. I think if you get this card out, it's just really nutty, the value you get. I mean, it's already 2 better than Roach, plus if you're thriving, it can be, well, it's probably worth, at that point it's worth about 6 provisions, this card, right? So if you really look at it numerically, you're just kind of getting two free provisions from nowhere, and it just comes out of your deck free. You don't even have to play it as a card. I don't know, it just seems very good is what I'm trying to say. But that is, of course, I think this card would be really strong if it was a different faction that was using Frost, but since it's monsters, Frost is inherently going to be a bit of a weaker play in monsters because you already want to be playing units to thrive, and if you're just playing a spell, then you're not thriving, so you're going to miss out on some value there. So I would imagine that's going to make this card a little bit fairer, but I still think this is definitely a playable thing, and it will incentivize you to do Frost things, which I'm happy to see, because to be honest, there wasn't that much support for doing the Frost ideas, I think, without this card being in the mix. So I think this will help a lot. Might make you want to play, the full-on Wild Hunt archetype as well. Definitely, I'm sure people will try that for a bit of fun if it's not competitive. But either way, yeah, very excited for this card. Next we have Skjordal Drummond, Devotion Veteran, deploy, damage an enemy unit by his base power, and he's a 3 for 8. A 4 for 8 in round 2 and a 5 for 8 in round 3. Of course, damaging an enemy means you're doubling that value, sort of, you're doubling his base value effectively and getting even a bit more value because damage is always quite nice to have. So dealing 5 damage in round 3, that's pretty strong, this is nothing to laugh at. It's a 10 for 8, 5 damage, you're rivaling a card like Ada Striga in Monsters, which is very, very good card. That Monsters plays, and in Skellige having damage is arguably even better in some cases because you have other ways to manipulate the board and the strength of opponents' units in order to line up things, with longships and stuff and kill stuff more easily. So yeah, is this card good? Well, yeah, it seems pretty good. You do have to run Devotion, otherwise it's probably just, like, why would you ever play this? A 6 for 8 is never going to be good, so I'm a bit sad to see that, I don't know. I mean, whatever. It's not a big deal, but the point is this card will only be played in Devotion decks. It won't be played in non-Devotion decks. I like it if the Devotion cards can see some play in non-Devotion decks as well, but, depending on what you're deciding to run. But at the same time, we don't want to make Devotion too overpowered or anything like that, so I understand the decision. Anyway, seems decent if you can do a Devotion deck for Skellige. How easy will that be? Well, we'll see. Definitely, consistency might be a problem for Skellige, I think. I guess you've got Urcheon and potentially some other tools, Ceres maybe, to thin your deck a bit, but yeah, we'll see. I imagine you'll try to do some kind of big warrior, stuff, because this guy is a warrior. Let me just check, but I'm pretty sure. So you probably want to do some warrior things. Yeah, he is, with, the new card, what is it, Blood Eagle, the tutor for warriors, so maybe you'll try to do that in the Skellige. I'm not sure how strong it will be yet. The consistency might be an issue. We'll see about it. But yeah, card seems good if you're doing Devotion. Ildika, I don't know how you're meant to say that name, but 5 for 9 Northern Realms card, Order, boost an allied unit by 5, inspired, whenever you play a Northern Realms unit, give it Zeal. So yeah, I'm not quite sure how this card works, if it's immediately, if it's boosted straight away, does it immediately gain Zeal? That's something I'm not actually sure about. And that, if it affects itself, imagine you play this onto a board where you have a Reynard already developed, then potentially this could come down and be a 10 for 9 plus that pretty powerful inspired effect, which is definitely, I think that's the main upside to this card actually, is the inspired effect. So we'll see if that interaction works. Maybe it's been confirmed. I wasn't actually listening to the stream when they showed these cards, so maybe they talked about it, but not sure. But if that's the case, then I could definitely see this finding some good value. Otherwise, it's still probably pretty decent. I mean, it's quite hard to remove 5 strength units, especially in Northern Realms, where you can boost them up and manipulate strength and give shields and things like that. So at that point, a 10 for 9 with an upside is definitely a scary prospect. And if you can, if you can play this with Revenants, or, actually maybe not with Revenants, they wouldn't gain Zeal, I guess, because you're not playing them. But just with your other engines in Northern Realms, I can definitely see this one being pretty decent with Ansays and Baron and stuff that you're already running. But will it be a game changer? Kind of hard to say. It's very easy to play around that inspired effect, I think, by generally just damaging it and trying to not let that work. But this card could definitely be good. Seems like, at the minimum, a fair card, and at best, potentially very, very strong. So, another nice tool for Northern Realms. Next we have Hamadryad. A 4 for 5 Skjordal card with Symbiosis at the end of your turn. If this unit has Vitality, boost self by 1. So at the moment there's not a huge amount of tools to give Vitality to your units in Skjordal. I mean, you've got some Dryads, I guess, that do that, and some spells like Dryad's Caress. So that's the obvious synergy there, is Dryad's Caress with this card. Give it Vitality, it becomes a 1 point per turn engine for a few turns, and you of course get the Symbiosis nature activation. Will that be good? I mean, kind of, maybe. I mean, if that works, then this card is an engine that's getting you effectively 2 points per turn, theoretically, if you play, nature cards over and over again. So in theory, a 2 point engine per 2 points per turn engine for 5 provisions that's 4 strength is really, really good, right? It's definitely not too bad. I think the main downside here is giving this Vitality is obviously going to play pretty hard into tool removal, right? Like, this card's just going to get poisoned and die most of the time. It's kind of like a Nausicaa Sergeant in Nilfgaard, but like even more playing into tool removal. So I imagine the main reason you play this is if you're going super heavy on Symbiosis, but I'm not sure I see it. I feel like the Symbiosis units might be a bit weak from what we've seen. They're just a little bit understated, I think, because the problem with Symbiosis is you have to play Symbiosis units and then cards that benefit from Symbiosis to actually get the benefit. So that means you're kind of capped on how much value you can actually get from it, and it seems just like kind of a weak keyword in comparison to something like Thrive or Harmony, where you can just keep it rolling. All your cards can activate it. Although we'll see. Maybe I'm underrating Symbiosis quite heavily. Definitely, if there are some strong nature cards that you can play, then that might be a thing. But then again, that's the thing, I mean, I guess there are some, right? You've got like Call of the Forest and Waters and Isengrim's Council, which are already pretty good. So yeah, maybe. Being a Dryad generally is quite bad because it's just anti-synergy with Harmony as well. So that's something to think about. But not sure this card's too good, but at the same time, I mean, I don't know. Kind of a hard one to say. I think it's probably more likely to be weak than it is to be strong. Let's put it that way. Next we have Freixenet. 5 for 8 human, not the Dryad in the picture, the species mixing man, which I like the theme and the lore behind that. It's cool. And 5 for 8, deploy melee, boost a Dryad in your hand by 2, and on range spawn a young Dryad in this row with Devotion, allowing you to use both abilities. So if you have Devotion, you're getting a 9 for 8 with that engine value from the young Dryad, assuming you have something to buff in hand, which you probably do. And is that good? Well, yeah, it's pretty decent. 9 for 8 engine, you're kind of quite happy about that. So if you're playing Symbiosis, you definitely would want to be trying to play this card, I would imagine. In general, otherwise, again, if it's hard to say. I mean, you might play this as a 9 for 8 human, just anyway in like a Harmony deck or something. I mean, it's not bad point slam if you're already a Devotion deck, and getting a young Dryad that can then get you a few more points, assuming you play a couple of nature cards. I mean, that's not too bad. So, I wouldn't be too surprised to see it played, but at the same time, it's quite hard to usurp some of the other cards at the moment. I guess you could maybe try to fit this instead of a Hawker Smuggler and play Pavko and this card in some kind of Harmony deck. That could be an idea. Definitely the point slam potential and the value from this is there. So yeah, I think again another fair and balanced card here. And finally we have Urcheon of Erlenwald, otherwise known as Dunny, which is what he is able to transform into. after you use the order effect. And that gets you a 7 strength immune unit. That's pretty strong. I'm not gonna lie, guys, that is pretty strong. Just straight away, a 7 for 7 immune is not even that bad. If you compare something to like compared to something like Synthesis, which is an 8 for 9. So you know, this is about equal with that. It also has a point of armor, which is kind of relevant. And yeah, having that end of turn effect again, like all of these 4 for 7 cards, boosting a random allied unit, not the strongest of effects really, but if you're able to sneak out a bit of extra value from this that way, yeah, just another card that's probably pretty decent. And if you're looking for a cheap option in Nilfgaard, you're going to say, kind of fancy myself some nice value and a 7 for 7 immune unit at the end of it. Also worth noting, this card is really annoying to deal with. Like, you can't just damage this down in the same way you can damage the other 4 for 7s, because if you damage him, he's just transforming into a 7-point guy, and then you get absolutely wrecked. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. Definitely one of the more sticky and difficult to deal with 4 for 7s, but also kind of one of the weaker effects if it's staying on board. So yeah, interesting dichotomy there, and this card seems pretty decent. Again, all of the 4 for 7s do. Again, I'm sad there wasn't a bit more from these guys. Like, there could have been a little bit of difference in strength and provisions and abilities and stuff, but what can you do? What can you do? Apparently this is a thing in Magic, and that makes it okay. But anyhow, that's all the cards. I've reviewed them all, guys. Now, only time will tell if I'm even close to having any idea of what the meta or what cards are going to be good on the new patch. Probably I'm going to be wrong about very, very many things, so I'm looking very much forward to being wrong in a couple of days' time, and I hope you guys are looking forward to it as well. With that being said, I'll catch you guys then with some more deck guides and content and all that good stuff. Thanks for watching. Do subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. Please, I beg you, please subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.